My name is Daniel Miller, and if someone had told me a year ago that my life would unravel the way it did, I would have laughed and brushed it off. I was a man who believed in the sanctity of marriage, who believed that once you found your person, you built a life on trust and honesty. My wife, Emily, had been my world for nearly 10 years. We had a little house in the suburbs of Ohio, a golden retriever named Max, and a comfortable routine that felt, at least to me, like the foundation of a happy life. But life has a way of humbling you when you least expect it. Emily and I met in college. She was a literature major, the kind of girl who walked into a room with a quiet confidence that pulled you in. I was studying business, and I'll admit, I wasn't the type most girls paid much attention to. But Emily noticed me. She laughed at my corny jokes, admired my dedication, and encouraged me when I doubted myself. She wasn't just my girlfriend. She was my best friend. We grew together, graduated, and promised that no matter what, we'd always be a team. Our marriage had its ups and downs, like any, but I always believed the love between us was unshakable. Emily was a schoolteacher, and I worked as a financial advisor. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Every morning, I'd watch her sip her coffee while reading, her hair falling into her face, and I'd think to myself how lucky I was. Or, at least I used to think that way. The first time I noticed something off was so subtle that I almost brushed it aside. Emily had started spending more time on her phone. At dinner, she would glance down at her screen and smile faintly, then quickly flip it over as if embarrassed. When I asked her what she was laughing at, she'd say it was just a friend sending her something funny. I wanted to believe her, and so I did. But once doubt creeps into your mind, it lingers. It wasn't just the phone. Emily had started staying late at school more often. She said she had grading to do, meetings with parents, or projects to prepare. At first, I accepted it without question. She was dedicated to her students, and that was one of the things I admired most about her. But there was one night when she came home unusually late, past 10, her hair slightly messy, her cheeks flushed as though she had been running. When I asked her about it, she brushed me off with a quick explanation about a teacher conference. That night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and felt an unfamiliar tightness in my chest. Something wasn't right. I didn't want to be that paranoid husband who accuses his wife of things without proof. I wanted to trust Emily, but the signs kept piling up. She started buying new clothes that I'd never seen her wear at home. She wore perfume on days when she claimed to have no major meetings. And sometimes when I hugged her, there was a faint smell that wasn't hers, like cologne lingering in the air. I tried to push it all down, tried to convince myself I was imagining things. But one Saturday morning, everything changed. Emily told me she was going to the school library to catch up on lesson planning. I offered to bring her lunch later, and she hesitated before smiling and saying, "That's sweet, but I'll probably be busy. Maybe another time." That hesitation was enough to set me off. I waited until she left, then decided I needed answers. I got in my car and drove to the school, parking in the lot where I could see the library entrance. Hours passed and Emily never walked in. My stomach dropped. I called her phone, and she answered after a long pause. I could hear background noise that didn't sound like a library. It was faint music, maybe from a cafe. She said she was deep in grading and promised to call me later. That was the moment I knew. My wife was lying. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I decided to find out the truth on my own. I spent the next week paying closer attention. I checked her car mileage, noticing it didn't match the trips she claimed to make. I looked at our shared credit card statement and saw a charge for a restaurant I'd never heard of on a night she claimed to be working late. The evidence was piling up, but the final blow came when I followed her. One Wednesday, Emily left for a staff meeting. I waited 10 minutes, then got in my car and drove after her. I kept a distance, my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. She didn't head toward the school. Instead, she drove across town to a small Italian restaurant. I parked far enough away not to be noticed, and that's when I saw her. She got out of her car, her face lit with a smile I hadn't seen in months. And then I saw him. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit like He had just come from work. Emily walked straight into his arms, and they embraced like two people who knew each other far too well. My chest tightened, and my hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. That was the moment my world collapsed. I didn't storm over or cause a scene. I sat in the car, watching them go inside together, trying to process what I had just seen. The woman I had loved for over a decade, the woman I had built a life with, was in the arms of another man. When Emily came home that night, she acted normal, chatting about her day as if nothing had happened. I wanted to scream, to throw the truth in her face, but instead, I stayed silent. I needed to know more. Who was this man? How long had this been going on? And most importantly, why? The next day, I did some digging. I remembered the man's face clearly, so I drove back to the restaurant and asked a waiter if he recognized the description. The young man hesitated, but eventually said he thought the guy was a lawyer who came in often with a teacher. That confirmed it. I searched online, and after some effort, I found him. His name was Matthew Harris, a local attorney who worked in a firm downtown. Seeing his photo online felt like being punched in the gut. He wasn't just some random fling, he was someone established, confident, and successful. I spent days wrestling with my emotions. Anger, sadness, betrayal, it was all-consuming. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. And yet, part of me still loved Emily. That was the hardest part. Despite what she had done, my heart ached for her. But I also knew I couldn't let this go. Finally, I made a decision. If Emily wasn't going to be honest with me, I would confront the truth head-on. But instead of confronting her, I decided to face Matthew first. I needed to look the man in the eye and see what kind of person would betray another man like this. I waited outside his office building one evening, my heart racing as people filed out. And then I saw him, Matthew Harris, walking with the same confidence I had seen before. I stepped in front of him, and he looked surprised. Matthew Harris? I asked, my voice tight. Yes, he said, cautious. Do I know you? You know my wife, I replied, my jaw clenched. Emily Miller. His face went pale, and for the first time, I saw cracks in his confident demeanor. He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. I know everything. I know about the dinners, the lies, the nights she claimed to be working late. I saw you with her. Matthew looked down, guilt written across his face. Daniel, Don't, I snapped. Don't try to explain. I just want you to understand the destruction you've been part of. That woman is my wife. We built a life together. And you thought it was okay to insert yourself into that. To my surprise, Matthew didn't argue.